is Bettina Sparkles, and I'm here to talk about a very serious subject, and that is post-traumatic stress disorder, specifically childhood abuse stress disorder. Now, most people really don't know what PTSD means. It stands post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, is a very serious subject. It's a name given to people who suffered a very traumatic event. And most of the time it's associated with war, but it also can be associated with natural disasters, shooting, terrorism, and childhood abuse. And I'd like to tell you a little story of what I heard something just recently on TV about a lady who came home. She was a female soldier in Iraq, and she came home to her 3 children, and she started panicking, and she started crying and screaming and beating her kids up. And it was recognized that she was suffering from PTSD and is being treated for it. So the government is giving a little recognition to post-traumatic stress, but not enough. But these are the reactions with PTSD. I don't know if I mentioned them. Feeling alone, and you really don't have a sense of purpose for life anymore. You can go into deep depression for years, and this can carry on throughout your life if it doesn't get healed. The best time to heal it is right after the trauma, after the event. But that doesn't usually happen. Like in my case, it happened 50 years later, because mine was childhood abuse, and it was identified as PTSD. What happened to me is I grew up in World War II in Germany till I was 10 years old, and saw some horrible things, and then not only that, I was raised by an abusive mother, a dysfunctional mother, and I got hit with a wooden spoon almost on a daily basis, and I never knew when it was coming. And so it was a terrible start in my life, and we carried through, and one of the consequences of PTSD is that we take up addictions to medicate the feelings. And my addictions were relationship with men and alcoholism. And I just will say those first 50 years were pretty much like hell, because I was smiling on the outside and hurting on the inside. So, and you relive that PTSD, the trauma, every day in your life. It can be triggered just by anything, and what happens is you have the same feelings of fear that you had in the original event. In my case, I was, after I was 10 years old, I came to the United States and landed a job as a stewardess, and had to put on a smile all the time, as you know, as stewardesses and flight attendants had to do. And the ironic thing is that I was hurting on the inside. Well, I finally went into treatment, and that's about 10 years after the treatment. I went into intensive therapy, I went to workshops, retreats, and after 10 years I found out I didn't have to be in fear, that life could be better. And that's when I wanted to start sharing it with the public, and I started writing in 1996. Anyway, I have produced self-published a book called Flying with God, Putting on a Happy Face. Isn't that appropriate? And so I'm writing this because not too many people, psychiatrists even recognize childhood abuse as PTSD. And even if a psychiatrist would or help would be available, insurance doesn't cover it yet. So it's very expensive to get healing. But healing is available, so you can read books, you can do a lot of things, and I'm writing about that in my second book. But meanwhile, if you'd like to get to know me and about my past hurts, read this book. And I'll see you again sometime.